Our lives are a string of insights, flashes of inspiration that can be the catalyst for new ideas. However, our pace of life these days means we tend to miss some of them completely. I'm Dave Hill, and I'm the host of the Simple Reflections podcast, a fortnightly series of interviews with people from all walks of life. Our conversations are an invitation to reflect on some of the simple insights my guests have had that have gone on to have a profound impact on their lives. So grab a cuppa and a biscuit, join us, slow down for a little while and see what shows up for you. Welcome to the next episode of the Simple Reflections podcast. Today I'm joined by Steve Chandler. Steve is a very well-renowned coach, and I'm slightly pinching myself that I'm sat here talking to him. I've had the joy of reading a number of his books over the last few years, having initially been introduced to him by Ankush Jain, who's been on here in the past, and as have a number of his other former clients. And I've always been impressed by the way that they talk about their relationship with Steve and what he's done for them, in terms of drawing things out of them that they didn't know was there. And so, Steve, it's an absolute delight to have you with me here today.
Well, thank you, Dave. I appreciate you inviting me in.
Yeah, I'm still slightly surprised that you agreed to speak to me, and I'm very, very grateful for that. Um, as I mentioned before we started, the whole premise of this podcast is just a sort of series of gentle explorations looking at how human experience is created for people. Um, and I know you've had uh, a very varied career. And I just wondered, looking back over the years, if there's been a common thread that you've been able to hang on to and go, right, yeah, this is how it's all unfolded for me.
Yeah, a varied career is a very nice way of putting it. It's the most positive way I've heard from anyone who's really looked at my life. Because I had catastrophic failures and difficulties brought upon by myself for decades of my life. The first 3 or 4 decades, 3.5 decades, I went through bankruptcy, divorce, alcoholism, and many, many other forms of what looked like catastrophic failures. And so, has there been a common thread? I guess you might call it failing forward, because even after I was blessed by recovering from alcohol and addiction, I had businesses and careers that failed. But I always somehow failed forward into something that allowed me to serve more than I was serving in the other businesses. And when I finally got into this work of coaching, consulting, and seminar teaching and writing books, it all seemed to come together, and I was able to draw upon my many mistakes and failures as a way to connect with other people in a way that didn't intimidate them. They actually got an idea that if I could do this, they could, because they didn't have the same level of failure that I had had.
Hmm.
That's the common thread, I think. Failing forward.
I think it's a really useful way of looking at life. We are constantly learning new things, and most of that comes through trial and error normally being the thing that we learn from.
Yeah.
Um, and I can understand why um, people put, the the people that they go to for support on a pedestal, and going, crikey, I want to be like that. And I think it's hugely enlightening in a way for people to meet someone at a human level. And so I can completely understand why uh, you sharing your life experience with people actually allows them to see that despite where they're sitting at the moment and how they feel right now, there is possibility of things changing.
Sure.
Um,
Yes. Absolutely. And it doesn't take massive amounts of willpower and courage and some kind of pre-existing personality trait that we're in constant flow personally, and that's what all my books have been about. Is we're constantly reinventing ourselves whether we realize it or not. And that's the beautiful thing, because we're really not stuck with anything that's fundamentally wrong with us. And that's what clients see when they open up and do the kind of work that I do with clients, is they really realize, boy, there's really nothing wrong with me. And for all my life, I thought I had these personality defects or character flaws or blind spots and all these things. And none of it was really there. They can just start from day one, create what they like, and they didn't know they. Most people don't know they have that freedom.
mm. I think that's something that I was reminded of when I read your book, Creator. I've I don't know whether I've seen creativity as being something that's always been part of me, but I suppose without thinking about it, I know it has been in many forms in throughout my life. But realizing that I'm creating my experience from moment to moment, um, one allows me to realize that when I'm stuck on something, it's me that's generating the thing that I'm stuck on. And it also empowers me to realize that actually I'm the one that can create something to help me move through this.
Yeah, the creativity that we knew we had at age 3 and 4 is always there, and it's just all these thoughts and beliefs that have accumulated over the years in society and the culture with our families and our failures that get in the way and block the innate creativity we all have. And it's always there, and it's always available at all times, no matter how you feel, or it's just sitting there waiting to be employed.
Mm. And yeah, I think one of the things I love working with people is when they realize that actually they are creative, they are, that no matter how stuck they are, they realize that, oh wow, wait a minute, there is something I can do here. In what, and that's always been there, and it then becomes a sort of a reassuring uh aspect of of us as humans, I suppose.
Yes, absolutely.
I I'm always curious to meet fellow soldiers, fellow veterans that have ended up in the coaching world, and wondered if there's anything there between the years of service that you did, and how that plays into the way that you coach people today, if at all.
Well, maybe it does. It's I was in psychological warfare. I was in psyops in the military. I was in the army for 4 years, and so the use of communication for persuasion and manipulation was studied, and it became very fascinating and interesting. as absolutely the wrong way to go if you want to have a good life. So it's fun to learn things like that, and I don't know if that really influenced me or not. I think everything that we encounter has an influence. The military gave me a way to disconnect from family and show that I could live in the world and not have a fear of disconnection and not really need any particular person to get along, and that was helpful to me. But there were a lot of disasters and drama inside my military experience too, which I think in retrospect is all very helpful. I think if we could really zoom out, I know I do when I look back on the things that showed up as tragedies and breakdowns and horrible moments, they were really some kind of gift in disguise. They were really learning moments, growth moments that I resisted and wouldn't have wanted in advance, but looking back, I'm grateful for.
It's interesting.
How about your own military life? Has it had an influence on your coaching?
Well, it's the reason I got into coaching.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I left the army 13 years ago after 17 years worth of service,
Oh,
and
wow.
one of my soldiers who'd been in my first platoon phoned up out of the blue. He'd been out of the army for about 10 years and said that he needed help, that he'd been what's known as sectioned here in the UK. So he'd been something had gone wrong mentally and he'd been put in hospital against his will, I suppose is probably the best way to put it. And could I help? And I just realized how huge a phone call that was for him to make, how much faith that he was putting in me. And I knew that the discomfort I was feeling was mine rather than his. And I just said, well, I don't know what to do, but let's see what we can do together. And that sort of started, yeah, a sort of route that led me into learning about coaching so that I could be more helpful to people when they phoned up like that. And actually, I created my business so that I could give time away to veterans. So I give about 60% of my time away these days.
Wow.
Um, uh, and I was speaking to a good friend of yours, Melissa Ford, on the previous episode, and we were talking about leadership and service and all that kind of stuff. The British Army's Royal Military Academy Sandhurst's motto is "Serve to Lead." So that was sort of imprinted in my psyche, I suppose, from day one of my training, and still forms part of how I try to operate today. Um, but I think what you pointed there to in terms of moments of failure being gifts for us. I've seen that with two veterans in the last 2 or 3 months,
Mm.
both of whom uh, found themselves getting arrested for, in one case, something that he hadn't actually done, and the other one, um, an overreaction to something. Both of them found that time sat in the cell for 12 to 24 hours an opportunity for their minds to slow down,
Wow.
and have seen it as an opportunity for them to basically reset and see what the future has to hold for them rather than fighting against it, which is what they might have done in the past. So, um, uh, it never fails to surprise me when people see huge earth-shaking life events being reset moments. And at the same time, it's reassuringly regular, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yeah, that's beautiful. I admire your um, life is a lot more admirable than mine. I've never given 60% of my time away. I had a campaign called Anything for Money that went on for years. I would go anywhere, do anything, say anything, promise anything, imply that I could do anything, in a passionate, frantic attempt to get out of debt and raise my children. I had full custody of four children, and so I admire you for that and for helping veterans and your service, your many years of service. I said 4 years because I thought that would be impressive, but then you come back with 17, and you win by 13 years.
Yeah, I didn't see it as that, but thank you very much. I It's what I wanted to do from day one. Whenever anybody asked me what I wanted to do when I was growing up, it was always a soldier of some variety. And when I left, 13 years ago, that was the first time I didn't know what I wanted to be.
Oh
Um,
wow!
uh, but it was the right time to leave for me and my family at the time. Um, and yeah, life gives us gifts all the time. We just don't necessarily notice it. Um,
Yeah,
the
that's the trick, though, isn't it? To notice it sooner and not many years after or many months after, but
mm,
begin to see it when it occurs.
yeah,
What is the learning in this? What is the message for me? Um, why do I have to label this as a tragedy or unfortunate or wrong, right away?
yeah, yeah,
And for me, the sooner we can close the gap and stop labeling anything and seeing the gift in everything, the more fun life becomes and the more enjoyable and fulfilling.
mm, no, I couldn't agree more. The My sort of journey into coaching itself came about after the breakdown I'd been serving veterans, I suppose, with the best of intentions, without much, just following what felt right and not really understanding why listening with no idea of what was going on was helpful. Um, and then really got interested in coaching at the point that my marriage broke down, and I realized that what I thought to be solid and on rails and going to last forever wasn't. And that's probably the toughest thing I think I've ever experienced. But at the same time, I knew it would all be all right. I didn't quite understand how I felt that, but I absolutely knew whatever the outcome, we would all be okay. Um, and then got curious about how that came about. And it was through a friend that just said, right, I think you might like Michael Neal's book, The Inside Out Revolution.
Oh,
Um,
yes.
and that started the whole journey of exploration that led to you and I sitting down here today and having this conversation. Um, and it's been curiosity that has been the theme for me all the way through that. And I know that whenever I'm sitting in curiosity, I'm looking for fresh new stuff.
Yeah,
Um, you know, the
beautiful.
the kit bag of stuff that I've collected in life is vaguely useful, but if I'm rummaging around in that, I'm not actually listening to what's actually going on right in front of me. Um, and I think that's the exciting thing that we get to do as coaches.
Yes. When I was younger, I never understood that song, Pack Up Your Troubles in an Old Kit Bag. But you bring it to life. with your real life experience. And Michael Neal's book is so powerful. And I was blown away by that book. It can really open your mind. And for a lot of people that I've given the book to for the first time, they do look inside. What do you mean inside out? Everything up until a book like that is just totally outside in. It's just me
Mm.
against the world. And it's one ongoing miserable battle. Me against my debts, me against my divorce, me against the government, me against this. And then the inside out uh, gives the whole thing a brand new dimension. I'm glad you
Mm.
found that book.
Me too. Yeah, it's spawned a bit of a book collection, but that's that's just me following what I'm enjoying learning about, and knowing that I'm always going to be learning more is really exciting. It's one of the reasons that I created this podcast was to be able to have conversations with people, knowing I'm going to learn something during the course of that, and also then being able to share that with whoever is out there listening to it.
Yeah.
Um, I think that that aspect of service is a wonderful thing, because here we are having a conversation. We have no idea who's going to hear it. And we also have no idea what they're going to take from it, and the direction that that's going to launch them in their lives. And that's hugely exciting.
Yes, it is. I love what you said earlier about not knowing why, merely being willing to talk and listen and be there for someone would be of such help.
Mm,
And then over time, for me, it just became obvious. Of course, that's what people are longing for. We're in a epidemic of loneliness in the world with the internet and all the technological advances that allow us to distance ourselves from other human beings and from true relationship and conversation. And it can get terrifying.
mm.
The isolation, the loneliness, the disconnection. What was created, like the internet and everything, what was created to connect us is, in a funny way, disconnecting us. And and then being there like you do in your profession with creative listening and a willingness to share when appropriate your own experience. It doesn't take a real fierce algorithm on how to do that. To open your heart and be there for someone and let it go where it goes.
Mm.
That's the heart and soul of coaching. And a lot of
Yeah.
coaches take a long time. I took a long time to get there. I tried way too hard to teach and give advice and be demonstrate superior wisdom to the client and provide value and be impactful. And it held off our ability to really connect in a compassionate way. And I had to unlearn all that over time. Still am.
It's reassuring to hear you say that. In terms of, um, I know I'm going to continue learning stuff, and when I think I'm not, then that's the that's the warning sign for me to well, wait a minute. I've lost sight of the curiosity. I'm now in my kit bag with all my rubbish. Um,
Yeah.
let's poke my head out and have a look out, see what else is out there. And it's reassuring to hear someone with your level of experience still be at that point of, right, okay, what's new here? Um, because it's what I imagine to be true. But it's always lovely to hear hear that that is the case.
Yeah, I keep realizing because I am retired, but I'm semi-retired. I have a handful of clients who made me offers I couldn't refuse to keep my hand in it a little bit, and I keep realizing I am barely scratching the surface of what coaching can really do for people, what it can really be. I've barely scratched the surface of that. I haven't mastered it or um, plumbed the total depth of it at all. I keep waking up to, wow, this is possible and that's possible. And I stopped writing books 10 years ago when I said, that's my last book for sure. And then all of a sudden I would wake up, oh, that's something I just learned. I want to put it in a book. And that just happened recently with the book I'm writing now. Like, oh my goodness, um, I've got to write this down. This is exciting. So, yeah, you would think after 81 years on the planet, you'd have it all figured out, or a rational, sane person probably would have figured it out, but I sure haven't.
I think I think your enthusiasm for sharing what you learn and the way that you do, you've certainly got a gift for writing, that's for certain. Um, you know, I know you're in the sort of 30 plus, probably 40 plus books now. You, your capacity to share things in that way is wonderful, and I'm ever appreciative. I'm not quite sure the house can cope with many more bookshelves, but we'll keep going for as long as is required. Um, the I think that's a great gift that you have there. Um, the it was interesting, I know you've written a couple of books recently with Trevor Timbeck. Is this another book on top of that you're talking about just now?
Yes,
Oh
yes,
wow,
he and I are writing our third book together. He would be a wonderful guest for you.
he's been. I've had him.
Oh,
He's been
good,
here. Thank you very much. So yeah, he was. We had a lovely time talking about the
good.
power of systems.
He is brilliant, and he's one of the reasons I was lured out of full retirement because I was so excited working with him and his ability to coach people and his brilliance and his poetic brilliance when he writes. It's just a joy to write with him. I
Mm.
never thought I would meet someone like him. I thought I'd met everybody. Yeah, I know everything. I've met everybody. And all of a sudden he comes along, only half my age, and I could be his grandfather or even great grandfather. And to have us connect the way we did, and we were just like two little boys inventing things together. It was just, and so we're on our third book, and I'm going to try to talk him into writing a fourth book and call it a quartet. One of the ways I got him to write this third book was I referred to it as a trilogy. That we would now have a trilogy if we wrote it, uh, and now I'm hanging the word quartet. We'll have a quartet of books. I don't know what five books would be. I don't look that far in advance, but yeah, it's exciting, and he's marvelous.
I loved how he explained. It certainly felt like it in reading the book, but that you sort of basically wrote a chapter each and it bounced backwards and forwards.
Yes,
And that, that's exciting because that's sort of the way that my mind works with things. It's just like, right, okay, well, what's the next logical step? But I think having another person involved in that is the excitement of reading what they've come up with and seeing where that takes us. It really
yes,
does lead the sort of the creative process in a much more exciting way, I suppose.
It really does. I've co-written other books with other people, but I've never had such an exciting back and forth as I've had with Trevor. I get a chapter from him and I think, oh my gosh, how am I going to follow this? But it inspires so many new thoughts just by what he's written on the subject. First, it was a book about systems, then it was a book about the power of love, which is a tough subject to write about because it's so it's hard to put it into words. And we have a new one going on now, the power of conversation. What occurs when people are really in a true conversation with each other,
Mm.
and how powerful that can be, and how it's missing in our society. So it's fun. And then
Yeah.
we, like you say, he and I are in conversation when we write. You can kind of hear us talking to each other back and forth about the subject, which for some readers is a lot of fun.
It certainly was, certainly is for me. I'm dyslexic, so reading was something I hated at school. I would
I
avoid
bet.
it, absolutely avoid it, and then took a took us some time off before joining the army. Went traveling, and took myself to Australia and thought, oh crikey, I'm going to be on a plane for 24 hours. I need to. I hadn't, it was the first flight I'd ever been on, so I had no idea that you had films on flights. So that I need to entertain myself. I better buy a book. So found something that I thought I'd be interested in, thinking it was going to last me my 3 or 4 months traveling around Australia, and I finished it by the time I landed. Went, oh, I
Wow.
can read. I just need to
Yeah.
find the right subject matter.
Yes, I have a dyslexic friend who hated reading and was made to look stupid because they didn't diagnose
Mhm.
the dyslexia in his day, and then learned to slow down, and he just loves reading now. And he reads very slowly, but it's even more somehow it's even more impactful
Mm.
than other people I give a book to.
Yeah, yeah. My girlfriend and I read at different rates, and she's always amazed at how much sticks in my mind because
Yeah,
I'm reading it at the pace that I would speak because I
yeah,
can't go any faster than that. Whereas she'll whip through a book and then it's almost forgotten
yes,
by the time she's put it down. Um,
yes.
so no, it's it is what it is. It's just the way I navigate books, and I've come to terms with that. Whereas at school, it was yeah, you're thick and you can't keep up with everybody, and you're at fault. And then as soon as I learned that that wasn't the case, okay, right, cool. There's probably my own way to do things, and yes, I'm not as quick as others, but I'm probably taking more in potentially than some.
I think you are.
But yeah, I love the sort of to and fro between the pair of you as reading now. The Power of Systems. I haven't got onto the Power of Love yet, but it's on my birthday list.
Hmm.
Um, so you mentioned that you're semi-retired now, but you're still engaged with a couple of clients. Um, what is it that you're finding fresh and exciting in those conversations that you're having? Not necessarily the details of it, but what is it that's at the age of 81 keeping you in the game?
I think what I'm finding most exciting is people are more willing than I ever imagined to abandon their old belief system and even abandon what they thought was their identity. When I wrote a book called Reinventing Yourself, it was all about how my coach allowed me to see that my personality, who I thought I was invented to begin with, based on my fears, my social fears, ways of coping in high school and middle school. And if it was invented to begin with, it could be reinvented as I went along. And the old idea of we are conditioned by our childhood and then we live out that conditioning for the rest of our lives was false. It's been proven to be false in neuroscience. The brain can keep changing, keep being reconditioned, and we can be in charge of the conditioning.
Mm.
It's not just parents, society, school, peers. It's the direction we lead ourselves in that the new conditioning can occur, and new identities and lack of identity, pure creativity, pure spirit can replace a fixed identity in people. So that excites me. I didn't think people would be so willing to go there and um, be open to that as they
Mm.
are. So that's very exciting for me.
Oh, that's cool. Steve, this has been wonderful.
Well,
I
thank you,
am,
Dave. Thank you. I've enjoyed talking to you.
yeah, when I started thinking about the podcast, I wrote a list thinking I need to make sure I've got enough people on the who would I like to speak to. Um, and and I'm still working through that original list, which is wonderful. And I put your name down thinking that's never going to happen, and here we are. So never say never. Um,
Right.
Thank you so much for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure. And yeah, I hope you continue to keep writing and enjoying your semi-retirement.
Well, I hope you continue. Keep coaching and podcasting.
Thanks, Steve. Take care.
You're welcome. You too.
Thank you for joining us today. If you've enjoyed the conversation, feel free to subscribe and join me and my new guests next time. If you're interested in the work I'm doing, or you think I can be of service to you or your organisation, please email dave@simplicityofmind.co.uk. Remember, see if you can find time to slow down and reflect. Those simple ideas might be worth listening to. Take care, and I hope you can join me in a couple of weeks.